we are targeting vertical software companies that want to embed and monetize payments within their platform. We're providing the technology experience. We're providing them the monetization opportunity where these software companies are able to start generating revenue.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. Today's guest is a founder who is in the face of almost every business out there with what he does. And so I'm excited to have him on. Caleb, tell us who you are and who do you serve with your business?
Yeah, so I'm Caleb Avery. I'm the founder and CEO here at Tilled. And for us, we are targeting vertical software companies that want to embed and monetize payments within their platform. And to your point, it's really the ability to service almost every business, out there. When you think about almost every single vertical that you can think of, there is a vertical software servicing, that space. And I think more recently, these companies are trying to figure out how to add payments and how to monetize the payments flowing through their platform. And that's really where Tilled comes into the equation.
I love it. So a lot of people don't even think about this step of the journey, but you have to think about how you're processing payments, right? I mean, it's a must-have. You can't sell anything without a payment processor. So what makes you different? What is it other than just having a payment processor? I mean, are you a gateway? Are you what level do you get in the works of people's transactions?
Yeah, so I think that the way that I think about Tilled and this idea of PayFac as a service is really trying to solve problems for, the software companies that we're working with. And, my background, I started in the payment space, over a decade ago. And over time, as I scaled up my first company, I was brought in on these consulting engagements for software companies that were typically stuck on a Stripe or a Braintree, trying to figure out how to generate revenue from those payments. And so we're providing the technology experience as though you're working with a partner like a Stripe or a Braintree, but then we're providing them the monetization opportunity where these software companies are able to start generating revenue that typically was reserved for these legacy technology solutions. And so typically these software companies were having to essentially choose between, what's the lesser of two evils? Do I want technology or do I want to make money, on processing my payments? And so we're coming to the table with a gateway. We're providing all of the back office services to help them underwrite merchants, to provide support, to manage, chargebacks, and then ultimately, paying commissions to the software companies that we partner with. So it's really, turnkey white label solution that provides everything they need to embed and monetize payments.
Awesome. So you are a gateway plus. You're like a gateway plus a bunch of other back-end services to help you monitor what's going on with the transactions.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for us, that terminology, PayFac as a service, I think a lot of folks aren't necessarily familiar with, the PayFac model, a lot of the nomenclature, gateway, ISO, ISV. There's a lot of terminology in the space, but yes, the kind of gateway plus all of the other things that you need to run your business is what we're trying to bring to the table.
See, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. But PayFac, I'm like, okay, what are we talking about here? What does that mean?
Yeah. So first off, PayFac is short for payment facilitation. So first off, kind of start with the jargon, start with the acronym. And I think for a lot of folks, they're familiar with companies like Stripe, Square, Braintree, PayPal, and those are really the most notable examples of PayFacs or payment facilitators. But traditionally, the PayFac model was really unavailable to the average software company because it used to take 2 years and millions of dollars to go become a PayFac. And so your average, dental software platform or golf course management platform is not going to spend 2 years and millions of dollars, to go become a PayFac. And I think the secret sauce behind Tilled and why we've been so successful in the market is that we are allowing vertical software companies to leverage the benefits of the PayFac model, but get live in 1 to 2 weeks on our platform. And so, think about that idea of kind of 2-year multi-million-dollar process versus, couple of weeks, no upfront costs. That's why these companies are so excited about partnering with us.
But you're not the bank. You're not the merchant provider. You are the facilitator of the transaction.
Correct. And so, the software companies that are signing up with Tilled, they're able to get one contract and one relationship with us so that they don't have to go sign, contracts with the acquirers. They don't have to go negotiate an agreement with a bank, they get it all through Tilled.
Oh, cool. So you do set up at least one merchant bank account for them to process their payments.
Yeah. So depending on the model, whether they're operating under kind of a true merchant or a sub merchant model,
Gotcha.
we're either creating kind of a single, merchant account for, the software company kind of operating like a merchant record model,
Gotcha.
or each time, the accounts are being boarded, we're creating, an individual merchant account, for each of the customers coming out of the platform, but we're facilitating all of that on the back end, depending on which model is required based on, the individual deal. And so we abstract away all of that complexity for, the companies that partner with us. They don't need to understand, how the sausage is made, behind the scenes. They just get, the kind of instant boarding experience. Here's a webhook. You're off to the races.
No, trust me, I get it. I spent a good 12 years doing merchant processing runaround with tons of different banks for tons of different online offers that we were running. And it is a freaking crazy industry. And so for you to come in and provide a one-stop solution for most businesses out there doing any kind of online transactions as an alternative to a Stripe and a Square or a PayPal, this is awesome. This is great news. Why is this such great news? For those that don't know why this is such great news.
Yeah. So I think, what's exciting when you look at kind of the macro trends that are happening in the payments category in general, traditionally payment distribution happened where the merchants went direct to their bank, or they talked to a door-to-door sales agent like myself who came in to sell them, credit card processing. But right now that payments distribution model is changing, where more and more you have the rise of these vertically focused software, solutions that focus on, I mean, we have ones that do like trash delivery service. There's a vertical software company for trash delivery, propane delivery, music studio software. I mean, you name it, there's a software for that. And I think these merchants want an all-in-one solution that really understands 100%. Their business. They don't want just a general, hey, this guy provides merchant accounts for every industry on the planet. Like, they want something that solves the pain points for their business. But traditionally those companies had a hard time embedding and monetizing payments, and we've kind of opened up that opportunity for these companies to be able to really take advantage of that without having to, spend a significant amount of engineering, bandwidth to do that.
Right. Very cool. I get it. For those listening, if you still don't get it, you're going to have to rewatch it. Just kidding. No, this really is a huge play. This is really important for anyone that sells anything, that does any kind of transaction online, because it is so easy to just run to a Stripe. But if you understood the numbers of what you're losing by going to a Stripe as opposed to going to a solution like Tilled, you will desperately want to connect with Tilled and figure out how they can help you move your online transactions to someone like them. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, to put it in perspective, for a lot of our customers, they're talking about anywhere from 0.5% to 1%, in margin on every single dollar processed through your platform. It's crazy. So, if you're sitting there listening at home and saying, hey, well, we've got 100 million, 200 million, 500 million, flowing through our platform, and, we're not making any money, or we're not making anywhere near, that type of margin on payments, chances are you're leaving money, on the table. And I think for me, whatever, over the last 7 years, having helped, well over 100, software companies think through, these sorts of solutions, you'd be surprised at companies big and small that don't realize, how much money, they're leaving on the table. And so, if you haven't thought about it, you're not alone.
0.5%.
But it's a lot of money.
0.5% to 1%. That is ridiculous amount of money that you're leaving on the table. It's ridiculous. Do the math, 100 million a year. That's $1 million you're leaving on the table that you could be taking if you used a better platform as opposed to the simple platform. Right?
You're right. And I think the kind of typical, logic for, hey, here's why we can't, do this is engineering time. Oh, the roadmap, is crowded. And for us, we've launched, 19 or 20 software companies so far this year already. And the average integration time was 9 days. And so we've kind of eliminated the kind of technical,
The pain.
pain to go live here. And so there's almost no excuse, for why you shouldn't
Fantastic.
monetize your payments.
Fantastic. I love it. Okay. So now we understand your business. We know who you want to help. We know kind of what you do to help them. Talk to us about your business. Talk to us about your growth journey. I mean, you've been doing processing for 10 plus years. This business, why did you start this particular one? And tell us about the growth journey that you've had on this business.
Yeah, so I started in payments at 19, co-founding my first company. Over time, scaled that up, and then about 6 or 7 years ago, started consulting for software companies, and that was
Cool.
really where I saw this opportunity to go build out Till. Just consistently seeing these companies facing the same problems over and over again. But it really wasn't until January of 2019 that I actually said, "Hey, I'm going to go start another business," and that's what
Right.
became Till. That's what became PayFac as a service. And so between
Right.
January of 2019 and today, we've raised about 34 million in outside capital. We've scaled up from
Nice.
a solo founder to 50 plus people.
Nice.
Distributed around the country. Today
Love
we've
it.
got over 80 software companies that we partner with, and it's been just this wild journey. And I think, outside looking in, it can look like, this kind of overnight, success, but it's like, it's been a grueling, almost 4.5 years, building out this business and
Yeah.
slogging it out. But we're starting to see, the results and see the wins, coming in. And so it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. You'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode. There's nothing like working really hard for 4.5 years to get an overnight success.
Of course. It's easy.
I love it. No, honestly, that's fascinating. So talk to us about the strategy in your money raise, because a lot of people ask me, how and when should I raise money? I've got this great idea. I've kind of got some initial clients, some founder clients in there. How do I raise money? And you've had multiple raises. Talk to us about your journey in raising.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think there's been a lot of different experiences for me over the 4 years, and for us, I knew that there were some pretty significant technology and regulatory challenges that we needed to overcome to make Till happen. And so we actually waited to raise outside capital for almost 2 years from when I started the business. And so, kind of between myself and a couple of partners were funding, the early days of the business for the first almost 2 years until I could get to that point where I felt like, we had enough traction to really, go raise that outside capital. And I think that idea of traction can mean different things, to different people. Like, it doesn't have to just be revenue. It can be, hey, we've overcome these, technical objections, these regulatory objections. We've got this MVP. We've done this, customer validation and have this, customer feedback. But essentially, we've de-risked the business enough where I feel like we can bring in outside capital on terms that would be attractive, for us. And so that was the point that we waited
Cool.
to raise that first outside capital, was let's get the business to a place where, I'm confident we can bring in money on terms that make
Right.
sense, for the business. And we've overcome enough of the obstacles to make this happen. And then, from that point on, as we started to get, more traction, more customers, and we got in market, with the product, we continued to raise, additional rounds, of venture capital as we hit,
Sure.
additional milestones in the business.
Cool. So you did go to venture capital. You didn't go to traditional banking or any kind of, well, what made you choose the VC route versus any of the many other ways to raise money?
Yeah, I think for me, I knew that what we were building had the capacity to be, a hyper growth business,
Sure.
over time. And I think,
I agree with you.
especially in 2020, 2021, like the venture capital, firms were the ones looking for businesses that had the capacity to have this hyper growth, this hyper,
Right.
acceleration. And for me, I felt like if we were truly successful in what we were doing, it would likely, we would have the ability to deploy a lot of capital, over time. And so aligning ourselves with folks that were interested and excited in kind of a hyper growth, hyper profitable, business opportunity
Right.
and finding partners that had the capacity to deploy, a lot of capital into,
Yeah.
a business like this. That's really what, we were
Cool.
looking for. And a lot of the other kind of alternative solutions don't necessarily have the capacity to deploy, the scale of capital that
I love
we
it.
were, looking for.
Makes total sense. And truly, I can see the trajectory that you're on, and I do feel like it's a pretty safe bet. I mean, merchant processing is something every business needs to deal with. Every business needs to think about. And for those of you listening who have merchant processing in place, I'm telling you, as easy as Stripe and PayPal are, you will save so much money. It's almost like making money by getting better processing in place and better tools in place to give you potentially better feedback on what's happening with the transactions. It's awesome. It's a great business model. Way to go.
Thank you. Yeah, we feel like there's a lot of tailwinds, working
Yeah,
in our favor. That's for sure.
very cool. Very cool. So now we kind of know about the growth journey. Tell us about some of the biggest challenges. What are some unexpected hiccups you've hit that you're like, oh, geez, I did not see that coming.
Oh, challenges. I mean, Todd, it's been up and to the right the entire time. No issues
Right.
whatsoever.
That's awesome. Good for you, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think for me, I think about, probably one of the bigger challenges that we've had has really been creating and maintaining the right culture in a high growth, organization where, we've gone from,
Interesting.
I don't know, about 5 to 50, employees over the last, 2 years. And so,
Yeah.
really getting that culture, right in the beginning, and then maintaining that has arguably been one of the bigger challenges for
And
me.
why has that been so important to you?
Um, I think for me, it was something that I cared about from day one. And when I
Okay.
looked at, businesses around me that I knew of that had been successful, and frankly, those, that hadn't, one of the common things that I was kind of seeing across those other organizations was this idea of culture. And you have,
Yeah. Yeah.
employees feeling bought into the mission, the vision, the
Right.
values, of the organization. And ultimately I felt like, having that right culture would be an enabler for scale, an enabler of success
100%.
within the business.
I for what it's worth, I 100% agree with you. There are too many people who are building businesses without a clear mission, vision, values, and the fact that you brought that up as one of your big challenges is indicative of your success you've had so far. I truly feel like businesses that are focused on that will see a way forward, even around any other trials and challenges that come up. You're more unified around the mission and vision and goals of the company.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think for me, when I look at, you know, what has been the biggest, enabler, for us around that culture, it really has been being intentional about it. If you think
Right.
about we want to go make a change in sales. We want to go make a change in marketing and product. Like, you're going to come up with a plan.
Right.
You're going to inspect, how that plan is progressing, and then you're going to make changes, as you go. And I think if you're not intentional about the culture, that you're building, in your organization, it's never going to be a priority. It's never going to,
Agreed.
Improve, and it's never going to be that enabler that it has the capacity, to be for your success.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I am so proud of you for bringing that up, because a lot of people just kind of run right past culture, run right past mission, and you have a clear one. So tell us about advice. I mean, other people listening are wondering, crap, I don't have any of that set up. What kind of advice do you have to give them? What's the right time to come up with these things? Because to a lot of people, it sounds like fluff. To you and I, it's really important. When do you think is the right time to get your team rounded up in a huddle and say, what do we stand for, guys? What are we doing?
Yeah. So one, it's never too early. And so I think for me, one of the things that I firmly believe is that the culture starts with the founder or the founders, depending on, the situation. And so, while it is good to kind of go get input, from the team, I think if you start, early enough in the journey, the reality is that the culture of the organization, for me as a solo founder, it's what I brought to the table. If you got 2-3 founders, it's the culture that you guys are bringing, to the table. And as you're adding employees and bringing others, into the organization, you have to set the tone for, the culture that you want to build, in the organization. And so I guess the advice is, start today if you haven't already, and really think about what's the mission, what's the vision that you're striving for, and then what values are important to you, as the founders of the business, and then, really do what you can to evangelize, all of that, across the organization, and instill that, especially in the leadership team, as you build out the organization, because they then become, that kind of next level, of evangelists for what you believe in.
Totally agree. I love it. Thank you for bringing that up. Caleb, as you've been able to grow your business and experience the things you've done so far, I'm sure you'll agree that it oftentimes gets lonely. It's kind of it's exciting at first, and then you're like, crap, I got payroll every 2 weeks. I got these things happening every, like you become the bearer of a lot of burden that maybe you didn't realize going into it that you'd have to carry. Is there somebody in your network, in your circle, that's kind of inspired you to keep going, motivates you to, and gives you some advice, maybe mentorship, that you want to shout out today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, if I had to kind of pick one person today, the person that comes to mind for me is Drew Lyon.
Awesome.
Drew, I feel like, arguably is the reason why Tilled, exists as a company, here today.
Awesome.
He pushed me even before, January of 2019. Like, he was the guy that was continually coming back to me and saying, what about that business idea? We've been talking about that for 6 months. Like, why are you not taking the leap, to go start that business? And so, he was really kind of from before Till even existed, pushing me to keep going, and has been, an avid supporter ever since.
Love it. That's a great shout out. Thank you, Drew, for pushing him and being that inspiration. Listen, Caleb, I appreciate your time so much today. How do people follow you? Are you available on social? Like, where do people learn about Tilled? Where do we send them?
Yeah, so we're very active on LinkedIn, primarily.
Awesome.
So if you want to, follow my journey, just search for Caleb Avery on LinkedIn. Certainly, Tilled, the company, is very active on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome.
If you really want to dive deeper, our website, tilled.com, is a fantastic resources. We got a lot of content. We got blogs. We've got free ebooks. Cool. If you want to hear more, you can just Google me on YouTube and listen to some more podcast episodes. But I really appreciate you having me on the show today, and thanks for the opportunity to tell my story.
Love it. Thank you so much. Fascinating story of growth, and what a great business. If you're not set in your ways with your processing, you better check him out, because I promise, no matter what industry you're in, if you're transacting business online, you have got to really focus on this problem. So thanks so much for being here, Caleb. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Todd.
Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Did you enjoy that episode? Did it provide any value to you? Post it in the comments below. I welcome comments. I love to read the comments. Please leave us some feedback on what you liked about the show, what you didn't. Do you have questions? Reach out and let us know what we can do to provide more value on a future episode. We're so glad you're here. This podcast is designed for those that are building and growing their businesses, and we hope you're finding the value that you need out of here. If there's somebody or something you want to hear about, let me know. Comment, DM, let us know what's going on so we can provide you the value you're looking for the show, and so that you can grow your business in a better, more effective way, being more profitable and providing the value that your clients expect on the other side of the transaction. So glad you're here. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. Thanks again.